أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 185, Surah An-Nur, ayah number 58 to 64. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed. Liyasta'dhinkum, let him seek permission from you. Who? Alladhina malakat aymanukum, those people whom your right hands possess, meaning the slaves that you have. And who else? وَالَّذِينَ, and those individuals who لَمْ يَبْلُغُوا الْحُلُمَ مِنْكُمْ, who have not yet reached the age of puberty among you. So who must seek permission? First of all, slaves. And secondly, who? Those who have not yet reached the age of puberty, meaning young children. They should also seek permission. When? For what? ثلاث مرات, 3 times. Meaning there are 3 times during the day and the night when, if your slaves want to enter your private area, or if your children wish to enter your private area, they must seek permission. When? In these 3 particular times. And what are those 3 times? First of all, min qabli salatil fajr, before the Fajr Salah. Why? Because typically at that time, what is a person doing? He's sleeping. He's in his private area. So, if children wish to enter upon you at that time, they must seek permission before coming in. Similarly, the slaves also, they must seek permission before coming in. This is the first time. Secondly, وَحِينَ تَضَعُونَ ثِيَابَكُمْ مِنَ الظَّهِيرَةِ, and at the time when you remove your clothes, when? Because of the heat of the midday sun. So, during the day, when you're taking a nap, at that time also, if your children wish to come, if your slaves wish to come, what do they have to do? They must seek permission before coming. And thirdly, وَمِن بَعْدِ صَلَاةِ الْعِشَاءِ, and after the Isha Salah. Why? Because that is the time when people go to sleep. They're in their private bedrooms. So again, at that time, they have to seek permission. And these 3 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes them as ثَلَاثُ عَوْرَاتٍ لَكُمْ. They are 3 times of privacy for you. These are 3 times of privacy for you. Now let's go back to the beginning of the ayah and look at it in detail. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. A command is being given. And how is it being given? Who is being addressed? Those people who believe. What does it show? That observing this command, fulfilling this command, following this command is a part of Iman. And if a person neglects, then that is what? Deficiency in his Iman. It's going to negatively affect his Iman. So in order to perfect, in order to complete, in order to secure one's Iman, what must he do? He must follow the command that has been given over here. And what is it? That children and servants must be taught some basic rules. And what are those rules? That liyasta'dhinukum. Liyasta'dhinu from the root letters? Hamza, Dhal, Noon. And what does idhin mean? Permission. And istidhan or isti'dhan is to seek permission. So before they enter into your private bedrooms, before they enter into your private areas, they should seek permission. الَّذِينَ مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ, and remember this includes both the male as well as the female slaves. And remember that although this is only for the slaves, because at that time, whoever servant that you would have, you would basically own that servant. However, if today if a person has a servant, they're not a slave, but they're a servant, you've just hired them. And let's say it's a live-in nanny, a nanny who lives in the house with the family. So again, she has to seek permission. Any servant of the house, any person who is living in the house, what do they have to do? Seek permission before entering at these particular times. And وَالَّذِينَ لَمْ يَبْلُغُوا الْحُلُمَ مِنْكُمْ, and those people among you who have not yet reached the age of puberty. The word al-hulum is from the root letters ha, lam, mim. Ha, lam, mim. And hulum is basically used for the age of puberty. And it is said that the word is derived from hilm. What does hilm mean? Hilm, halim. What does hilm mean? Tolerance, right? Forbearance, patience. That when a person sees something going against his mind, when a person witnesses something that may anger him, but he does not react angrily. Rather, what does he do? He is patient, he is composed, he behaves himself well. And we see that children sometimes what happens? If anything goes against their desire, immediately they'll start yelling. Immediately they'll start crying. Isn't it so? But as a child grows older, what happens? His patience level, his tolerance level, it increases. He learns how to behave in people. So, al-hulum is the age when a person develops hilm. You understand? Al-hulum is the age when a person develops hilm. When he can control his anger. When he can be more patient. And generally, this has to do more with a person's maturity. With one's aql. Not necessarily with age. Remember that. Because sometimes what happens? People are very old, but still they don't have any hilm. And sometimes there are children who are very young. However, they have a lot of hilm. Isn't it so? So it has more to do with the maturity of the mind than to do with one's biological age. So al-hulum, as a term, what is it used for? Maturity, puberty. And typically, when a child reaches the age of puberty, then that is when they learn how to behave themselves, they become more composed, they can tolerate. And what do we think? That if a person is a teenager, then they are allowed to do whatever they want. They can behave however they want. They can misbehave, they can yell, they can scream. And what's the explanation that is given? She's a teenager. This is not appropriate. It is also said that the word al-hulum is derived from halama yahlumu, which is to have a dream. Remember, adghasu ahlam. Mixed, confused dreams, which are meaningless. And it's from the word ihtilam, and ihtilam is to have a wet dream. So the age upon which a person starts seeing such dreams, especially in boys, or for example, his sexual desire has awakened, has become alive, then that is the age of puberty. Now what is this age? It varies from culture to culture. In some areas, children reach the age of puberty. They get the sexual awareness at a very young age. Children who are 8 years old. And in some families, in some cultures, children, they reach their late teens as well. And many times they're not exposed to such concepts at all. You may have seen that the kind of things that your children may be talking about these days, when you were their age, you had no idea these things existed. Isn't it so? The kind of things that little children are exposed to today, when you were that age, you had no idea about the things that are out there in this world. So, this age, when a person's sexual desires have awakened, this varies from culture to culture, as well as place to place, as well as time to time. This is why we learned earlier that the women, when they are told to hide their zina, they're not allowed to show it to those children who are aware of women's private parts. And children who are not aware of the women's private parts, then a woman may expose her zina to such a child. And again over there I mentioned to you that the sign of puberty, the age of puberty has not been mentioned. Rather, this description has been given in particular. Because it's possible that a boy's voice is not cracking yet. It's possible that he doesn't have any facial hair. However, the kind of things that he's become exposed to, his thinking has changed. His feelings have changed. And recently actually somebody was telling me that when a boy reaches the age of 8 or 10, that is when generally such feelings begin to arouse, typically in a child, that he begins to view other people differently. So, al-hulum is the age of puberty, and it varies from culture to culture, it varies from time to time. This is why, if you look at the different opinions of the scholars, you will find a lot of differences. Some scholars have said 8 years old, some have said 15 years old, others have said 17 years old. So there is a huge difference of opinion. Why? Because this age varies from culture to culture. However, of the signs of puberty, amongst men are who? Amongst boys are what? That they will develop facial hair, their voice will change, their size will become bigger. And as for the girls, what is their sign of puberty? That they begin to menstruate. So over here, الَّذِينَ لَمْ يَبْلُغُوا الْحُلُمَ مِنْكُمْ it refers to both boys as well as girls who have not yet reached the age of puberty. So for example, you're talking about a 6-year-old child. You're talking about an 8-year-old girl. And it's possible you're talking about an 11-year-old girl as well. So basically, those children who have not yet reached the age of puberty. And remember, it also varies from family to family. It varies from person to person as well. It's possible that one girl, she gets her first menstrual period when she turns 11. And her sister gets it when she's 13. So it varies. So those children who have not yet reached the age of puberty, if they wish to enter your private room, what should they do? They must seek permission before entering. Because what goes on in the private bedroom should not be exposed to everybody, not even the people of the house. But unfortunately, what happens many times? People say, it's only a child. What's the big deal? What do they know? Or for example, people will say they see this all the time on TV. So what if they see it live? This is inappropriate. This goes against haya. This is not the way that Muslim families should be. This is not the way that Muslim households should be. So the children also, when they come to the private bedroom of the parents, what do they need to do? Seek permission before coming. And this is not all the time. Anytime they wish to come to their parents' bedroom, they need to seek permission. No. In particular, ثلاث مرات. At 3 particular times. And the word marrat is a plural of marrah. Marrah means time. ثلاث مرات, 3 times in particular. And first of all, من قبل صلاة الفجر, before the Fajr Salah. Secondly, وحين تضعون ثيابكم. تضعون from the root letters? واو ضاد عين. وضع. What does وضع mean? To put something down, to remove something. So, وحين تضعون ثيابكم. And ثياب is a plural of? Plural of? ثوب. Why do you take your clothes off? من الظهيرة. At the time of noon. Al-Zahira is from the root letters Zahara. And Zahira is the time of Zuhr Salah. It's the time of Zuhr Salah. So basically it's the time of noon. Right at noon time, right after that, when the heat is very intense, when the sun is extremely bright, and it's extremely hot at that time. And it is said that in winter, afternoon is not called Zahira. Why? Because it's not hot. So Zahira is primarily used for a hot afternoon. Hot afternoon, when it's very, very sunny. But over here in the context, Al-Zahira refers to the time of the day, which is the time around noon. Now, the Arabs, generally, they would take a nap at this time. And that nap is known as qaylula. They would take a midday nap. But because of the intense heat of the desert, what would they do? At that time, they would remove their clothes, all or part, just so that they could relax, just so that they could cool down. And obviously they would do that in their private bedrooms, in their private areas, where they would not be exposed to other people. So for example, it's extremely hot. A father wishes to take a nap. Now he's not dressed properly. He's removed part of his clothes. Now all of a sudden, if the servant walks in, all of a sudden, if the daughter walks in, it's not appropriate. So وَحِينَ تَضَعُونَ ثِيَابَكُمْ مِنَ الظَّهِيرَةِ. At that time also, if they wish to come, what do they need to do? Seek permission. And the third time is وَمِن بَعْدِ صَلَاةِ الْعِشَاءِ, and after the Isha Salah. Now these 3 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they are ثَلَاثُ عَوْرَاتٍ لَكُمْ. Awrat is a plural of awrah. And awrah is from the root letters ayn wa ra. We have done this word earlier as well. And basically it's from the word ar. Ar is embarrassment. So awrah is something that if you expose it, if you display it, if you show it to others, then it would be a cause of embarrassment for you. You understand? That if it is shown to someone, if it is laid open before someone, if it is made bare before the other, then it is a means of embarrassment for a person. So basically, awrah is the private part. It is the genitals of a person. It may also apply to the places as well as the times of privacy. The places, the parts of the body, that must be kept private. And it also includes the times of privacy. Meaning such times in which a person stays in private, he does not go before others, others do not come before him. So you understand? So these 3 times are of privacy for you. That you must have the freedom to relax in the way that you're dressed, to relax in the way that you're sitting, in the way that you're lying down, in what you're doing, in what is permissible. So ثلاث عورات لكم. ليس عليكم. There is not upon you. ولا عليهم, nor upon them. جناح, any blame. There is no blame upon you, nor is there blame upon them. بعدهن, after them. After when? After these 3 times, meaning outside of these 3 times, if your children walk in, if you go out, if you go to each other's private bedrooms, there's no blame upon you. Outside of these 3 times. And why in particular? Because طَوَّافُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. The reason is that when people are living in the same house, then what happens? They are طَوَّافُون. طَوَّافُون is the plural of طَوَّاف. And who is طَوَّاف? Mubalagha, one who does a lot of tawaf. And tawaf is what? To go around. So طَوَّافُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Some of you, you come and visit each other repeatedly, again and again, throughout the day. Isn't it so? Like for example, typically this happens with mothers. That whether they're in the bedroom, or they're in the kitchen, or they're in the laundry room, what's going to happen? Children will come, ask one thing, go away. Children will come, show one thing, go away. Isn't it so? Repeatedly they're coming and going. And especially little children, what happens to them? They go to one room, they go to the other room, they go to the bathroom, they go upstairs, they go downstairs. All the time they're just revolving around the house, going around the house. Similarly, the servants, because this ayah is not just speaking about the children, but also the servants who live in the house. Even they visit every person in their bedroom, in the living room, in the kitchen, time and again, repeatedly. Why? For the purpose of to provide service, or to give messages, or to do some work. So طَوَّافُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. And if it was obligatory that people should seek permission before entering each other's rooms, within the house even, then what would happen? Life would become very, very difficult. Isn't it so? Just imagine, if a child is living in her parents' house, if she has to go ask something from a sister, she has to knock on the door every time. She has to ask her mother something, knock on the door every time. It would make life very difficult. And you see, it develops a kind of takalluf amongst people, that they begin to fake themselves and, unnecessary distance between people. And this is not appropriate when people are living in the same house. So طَوَّافُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. And this is why, also, if, for example, during the day, outside of these 3 times, if you are free, if you're not doing anything, when you're trying to be private, when you're trying to hide something from other people, because it should be something done in privacy, then otherwise what should you do? Keep your door open. Why? So that it's not awkward for the other person to come and walk in, to come and ask you something, to come and speak to you about something. Keep your door open, if not fully open, slightly open, so that it's not awkward for others. And if your door is closed, then obviously that means that you're doing something important, and if they need to come, they need to seek permission before coming. So you understand? We can do something like this. Adjust, do whatever is possible within your own household. كَذَلِكَ يُبَيِّنُ اللَّهُ لَكُمُ الْآيَاتِ. Thus does Allah clarify to you the verses. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. And Allah is knowing, and He is wise. Now earlier in the same surah, we learned about the command of isti'dhan. Isn't it so? This command was given earlier as well. But that command in particular was about what? That when you come to each other's houses. Isn't it so? When you go visit your parents' house, when you go visit your daughter's house, when you go visit your brother's house, then what do you need to do? Before walking into somebody else's house, you need to seek permission. You need to say salam. You can't just walk in thinking, oh, it's my daughter's house. It's my parents' house. No. You must seek permission before coming in. Over here in this ayah, the command is regarding the people of the house, the people who were living in the same house. Because you see, in the house of a person, It's not just typically him, a man and his wife. We learned earlier that the bayt, the house of a man, is which one? The house in which him and his wife live. However, in the same house, it's possible that your children also live. Isn't it so? Similarly, it's possible that you have some servants in the house. And in some cases, it's also possible that there are other close relatives, such as a person's parents. For example, a boy, he lives with his wife and he also lives with his parents. Similarly, he lives with his parents, he lives with his brother. Correct? It's possible. Now, we learned earlier that in our religion, the encouragement is what? That each person should give a private space to his wife. Because it's not appropriate that the wife is living in the house and when she walks out of her bedroom, she has to put on her hijab because there are non-mahram men living in the same house. This is inappropriate. It goes against the religion. It goes against the teachings of the religion. So this is the rule. However, if due to some reason, if people are living together, even if they're not living together, your children are living in the same house, then we are taught some more rules. We are given some more instructions. Because in the same house, people have their private areas. Like, for example, the parents have their bedroom. The son has his bedroom. The daughter has her bedroom. The mother-in-law, she has her bedroom. Now, every person has their own bedroom. Can you just walk into other people's private areas without permission? You can't do that. So, these rules are being given. And what is that rule? The basic rule is that 3 times are of privacy. 3 times are of privacy. So you cannot walk into your parents' room at these 3 times. You cannot walk into your brother's room, especially when he's married, at these 3 times. Nor into your son's bedroom, especially when he's married, during these 3 times. Other than these 3 timings, what do we learn? That we can go and see one another. We can go and visit one another in their private areas. But in that as well, we should behave in an appropriate manner. And what is that? That do not silently walk in and then go boo and the other person gets frightened. No. When you're walking in, make your presence known. If you think of it, even when a cat enters a place, what does it do? It produces a sound, or it comes and makes its presence known somehow or the other. Isn't it so? Even animals do that. So if animals do that, then why shouldn't we do that? Why should we walk in as thieves into other people's private areas, as people who are haunting them, people who are frightening them? This is not appropriate. So, in the house, what is the rule? That in these 3 times of privacy, you must not enter except with permission. But other than these 3 times, you may enter without permission. However, definitely with making your presence known and felt by the other. Now, we see that the command primarily in this ayah is for who? It is for the slaves and the children. But they're not given the command directly. Isn't it? It hasn't been said, "Oh children, when you enter your parents' bedrooms, this is what you must do. Oh slaves, this is what you must do." No. Who is being addressed? The parents, the guardians, the adults. Why? Because the children, they're not able to understand. If the command is given in the Quran, will they be able to read and understand and comprehend everything by themselves? No. Similarly, servants, slaves, generally, especially at that time, they were so occupied with whatever work that they were given, their level of understanding was not the same. Their mental capacity was not the same because they had not been exposed to different things in life which would enhance their minds, which would enhance their intellects and understanding. Therefore, the level of understanding was little. This is why the guardians, the parents are being addressed that you must teach this etiquette to those who are under you. You must teach this etiquette to who? To those who are under you. Because if they do something wrong, who is responsible? You are responsible. If they do something wrong, then you are responsible. And finally, you are also responsible to provide them with proper education and training. And part of providing proper education and training to young children is that they should be taught these etiquettes from the very, very beginning. from a very early age. Now if you look at it, when it comes to a child, until a child turns 2, typically a child is being breastfed by the mother. Isn't it so? Which is why the child will be in the same room as the parents. But we see that these are 3 times of privacy, so when these children come, they need to seek permission. How is a baby meant to seek permission? You see, at that time, a child does not really understand what's going on much. He doesn't have a full understanding of what's going on around him. This is why until the age of 2, a mother is told to nurse her child. And you know that nursing involves exposing the private parts of a woman's body. However, it is allowed. Why? Because a child does not understand much. But after 2, it is inappropriate. Why? Because at that time, a child begins to notice these things. You understand? He begins to notice these things. So after the age of 2, the child's bed must be separated from the parent's bed. Because if the child is still sleeping with the parents, now the parents, they are halal upon one another. If they're doing something, and the child wakes up suddenly, seeing what the parents are doing, this is inappropriate. What is he going to think? What are you training him? What are you teaching him? This is inappropriate. So first of all, since children, they must not be exposed to these times of privacy when the husband and wife are together, this shows that when a child turns 2, then his bed must be separated. Even if it's in the same room, it should be separated. It should be separated. And after some time, when the child grows older, when he can walk off his bed easily, then, if possible, the room must also be separated. And if that is not possible, then the parents must be very, very careful that they should not expose their aura before their children. They should not use the washroom before their children. They should not change before their children. Similarly, the husband and the wife must not do any kind of intimate thing between themselves in front of the children. Because we think children don't understand anything. However, after the age of 2, they begin to notice these things. And it's very, very inappropriate that such things are done before children. I remember once somebody came complaining to me that her husband does not care whether, he has sexual intercourse with her in front of their child. And she says, I do not know what to do because my child is freaking out at that moment and she does not understand what's going on. And she gets angry, she gets upset. And although she was only around 2 years of age, okay, even if she was nursing at that time, this is inappropriate. What is being fed in that innocent child's mind? So after children turn 2, a woman is not allowed to breastfeed the child. What does it show? That a person must not reveal his or her private parts before his children when they reach this age. Even if a child is 4, even if a child is 5, it is inappropriate. So, first of all, beds and rooms must be separated. If that is not possible, then a person must be very, very careful in how he behaves himself in front of the children. Now we see that over here, when the children are told that they are not to enter the private areas of the parents in these 3 times, these private areas may be understood in 2 ways. First of all, as I mentioned to you, it may be understood as the bedroom. Within the house, the bedroom. But in some places, it is also possible that people have only 1 bedroom house. It's just a single bedroom, which is multi-purpose. I myself have seen some houses which are just like you open the door, you walk in, and it's just a single bedroom. That's it. You eat there, you sleep there, you change there, you do everything over there. There may be a washroom. However, everything that you do is in the same room. That's your drawing room, that's your guest room, that's your sitting room, that's your living room, that's your bedroom. Everything is in one place. So, at this time, what should be done? If the children are outside, because typically what happens, children don't like to stay inside, especially in such small places, right? They will tend to go outside and play, perhaps out in the streets. So if the children are outside, the servants are outside, if they wish to come in at these points during the day and the night, what should they do? Seek permission. So first of all, private bedrooms, and secondly, the house even if it's just 1 bedroom. And this command in particular is for who? Little children who have not yet reached the age of puberty. And who else? The servants. But this teaches us a very important thing, that if this command is for little children, then what about adults? What about those who have reached the age of puberty? The same thing goes for them as well. Isn't it so? If little children are not allowed to enter their parents' bedrooms at these points, then definitely older children who have reached the age of puberty, even they're not allowed. So for example, living in the same household, when you go into your brother's bedroom, when you go into your parents' bedroom, being an adult, don't just walk in. Don't just walk in. Seek permission before going. And we also see that 3 times have been specified for privacy. 3 times have been specified for privacy. Meaning that children, adults, servants, whoever it is, they must not enter without permission. Why these 3 times in particular? Why these 3 times? If you look at it, these 3 times are when people are generally asleep. Right? And when a person is sleeping, he is not fully aware of his physical state. It's possible that part of his body is not covered while sleeping. It's possible. A person's aura, a person's satar is being exposed. It's possible that the private parts are also being exposed. Why? Because a person is sleeping and he has no idea how he's appearing to be. Similarly, it's possible that a person is sleeping in their bedclothes, in their night dress, and they do not wish to go in those clothes before others. Do you understand? It's possible. And sometimes people say, oh, you shouldn't have that much haya. No, this is a part of haya. This is a part of decency. That if a girl, for example, is wearing her pajamas, even if they're fully covering her, she feels embarrassed walking in front of others in those clothes. Maybe she feels embarrassed. Maybe she doesn't feel comfortable. So, at these times, people are in their bedclothes. At these times, people are wearing light clothing. It's possible that their satar is being exposed. It's possible that a woman is wearing, clothes that are very short. So, it's possible. It also may be possible that a person is changing their clothes at this time to get ready for bed. So, these 3 times are times of privacy. And remember that even if the couple is not there, like for example, the mother and the father, only the mother is there, the father is not there. Should you just walk in? No, again, you should not walk in. Even if it's only your mother. Similarly, if your brother is married, he is only in the room, his wife is not there, can you just walk in? No, you should not walk in like that. Similarly, if your son is in his bedroom, his wife is not there, can you just walk in? No, you should not walk in. These are 3 times of privacy. 3 times of privacy. Where a person is allowed to relax in the way that he is dressed, in the way that he is lying down, in the way that he has covered himself. He should have this freedom. Because if people are not given this freedom, then what happens? It builds up anger and frustration in the hearts of people. Isn't it so? When people are not given their privacy, when people are not given a private space in which they can relax, it builds up anger and frustration in their hearts. So, we see that these 3 times people are allowed to relax, therefore we must seek permission before walking in. Similarly, at the time of qaylula, as I mentioned to you, that in extremely hot temperatures, people would lighten their clothing in order to take rest. And after Isha, again, a person wishes to relax, he wishes to undress. So at that time, it is disliked for a person to remain in a state in which other people should not be seeing him. And if you notice, it has been said over here, min ba'di salatil isha, after the Isha salah, which means immediately after. Why? Because bedtime begins when? Immediately after Isha. It does not begin 5 hours after Isha. When does it begin? Immediately after Isha. Because the Prophet ﷺ disliked if people should stay awake after Isha unless for a genuine purpose. So once a person has prayed his Isha, they have gone into their bedroom, do not go in without permission. Because all these 3 times are times of privacy, awratil lakum. And no one should invade somebody else's privacy.